But we want to join it not because we love NATO, but because Russia attacked us, and the war lasted for 9 years. So they attacked us anyway. Whether we are NATO members, not NATO, they attacked us in 2015, they attacked us in
and you said that this is wrong.
2022. Yeah. So if there's no Russian threat, we would not think about NATO. Imagine, you know, this is a very dark scenario. If Indonesia is attacked by a superpower which has nuclear weapons, would you like to have support from other countries? And look, what is the problem? One more problem is that Russia denies the very right of Ukrainians to exist as a separate nation.
Ya, ini episode yang sangat spesial. Saya banyak sekali bicara tentang konflik Rusia, Ukraina, di belakangnya ada Amerika, dan tamu saya mungkin hampir 10. Tapi kali ini saya mendapatkan tamu yang sangat luar biasa. Ada dua gentleman dari Ukraina. Mereka berangkat dari Ukraina, ya berangkat langsung terbang kemari dan ingin menjadi tamu saya. Oke, kita mendengarkan bagaimana perspektif dari mereka. Tamu saya pertama adalah Alim Aliev, Deputy Director General Ukrainian Institute. Hai Alim.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Oh, you're Muslim.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of weird for us, you know. So
surprising.
In Ukraine, there are Muslims.
Yeah, 1 million Muslims.
How many?
1 million Muslims.
1 million?
Yeah, 1 million living
So
in Ukraine.
we talk about the percentage.
The whole population is 36 million.
Yeah, 36 million.
36. Oh, big enough. And the other one,
Yeah.
this is a professor. It should be very serious, you know. Dr. Olexiy Haran, research director, professor of comparative politics. Nice to meet you, Prof.
Yes, I am very serious. Selamat siang. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum. Oh, you can say it.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Banyak. Very serious.
How many days have you been here?
Pardon me?
How many days have you been here?
We are since Saturday.
Since
Saturday.
Saturday.
So-
This.
But
It's only 4 days.
4 days.
and you see how many phrases we know in Indonesian?
How come you can learn so many Indonesian words so fast?
Because we are very capable.
Wow.
But I would say we Ukrainians, we are very interested. We are very tolerant people.
Tolerant people.
We
yeah.
know different cultures.
Yes.
So, and we would like to know other
Okay.
cultures as
Okay.
well, you know. So, that's important for us to understand other people and other cultures. And that
Okay.
may be the difference between us Ukrainians and one other country. I will not mention the name,
Yeah.
but you will get it. Because they are concentrated on them. They have messianic views of being the superpower, and they don't care about others. But I will not mention the name of this country.
Okay. I opened my program in Indonesian language. You know what I told them, because my channel, you know, has given so many opportunities to talk about the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and so many perspectives. You know, ambassador coming, you know, from professor coming, so many perspectives. But today, you know, I give you the chance. I mean, to give from your perspective, because you fly, you know, you flew directly from Ukraine. May I know what is your mission to come to visit Indonesia, Professor?
Okay, but may I start, because we have very frank talk, right?
Yes,
Discussion.
sure.
So,
We are so friendly.
frankly speaking, we Ukrainians, we do not like the word conflict, because this is war.
This is war.
A full-scale war.
Yeah.
This is a war which was unseen in Europe since World War II.
Yeah.
You know, every third Ukrainian has to leave. Every third. So it's more than. It's
so
even
this is your
more than
perspective, is it war?
12 million. Now it's more even. It's about 14 million out of 36. They left their houses. So they are either refugees in Europe or IDPs, international
Yes, I know.
displaced
Internal displaced
persons.
people.
So this is the real, incredible, you know.
And so many refugees from your country to Russia too, right? That's what I
Pardon me?
heard. Ukrainian refugees also come to Russia?
No. Russia deported Ukrainians from the temporary occupied territories to Russia. Also, they kidnapped children, for example, Ukraine's children, and just deported the children to different cities in Russia.
So you said it's wrong. That's right. I mean, the biggest country who's taking the refugees from Ukraine is Russia. So you said it is not right.
Not right, of course, because a lot of Ukraine spread it into different countries in Europe, in Turkey, for example.
USA, Canada,
also Ireland.
I saw it.
Yeah, it's spread it much. But when we talk about deportations, it's one of the cases of war crimes, Russian war crimes against Ukraine and Ukraine population.
So you have asked about
what is your agenda of your visit
so first
to come
of all,
to Indonesia?
we would like to spread the word of truth. We don't have much. Ukraine doesn't have, enough informational resources, money to invest in propaganda warfare like Russia is doing. But the truth is on our side. So we're just telling the truth. So this is the first thing. The second thing is to establish ties with Indonesians from different segments of the society and to promote these ties. And the third, actually, well, it could be the second, to hear from you. What are the effects of the war on Indonesia? Because we know there are global consequences of it, including food crisis, energy crisis. So we can think what we can do jointly, because you are the largest Muslim country in the world.
Number one.
And we have, repressions against Muslims in Ukraine. There is an issue of nuclear safety. We can discuss it. I don't know, maybe I can, say it right now, that the largest nuclear power station in Europe is situated in Ukraine. And it's not Chernobyl, it's Zaporizhia.
It's not Chernobyl.
No, it's
Chernobyl
Zaporizhia.
is in Ukraine, right?
It's Zaporizhia. So, and this is the first case in the world history when nuclear power station is occupied militarily by a foreign power. So first Russians invaded Chernobyl, nuclear power station, okay, then they left it because they were defeated, so they had to leave it, but instead they invaded Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, again, which is the largest in Europe. And they put their soldiers, ammunition, Ukrainian personnel there, which is operating the station, is under huge pressure, so it creates a very dangerous situation, okay? And if anything happens there, like radioactive leak, I hope it will not happen, but you never know. When it's occupied, so there could be huge global consequences of that. So there are many consequences of, it's not limited, to Ukraine, all the sufferings. It's also about,
all over the world,
it's about
we
global
suffer
consequences.
Too, in economy,
Again, it was never seen. Look, this is an attack, on non-bloc and non-nuclear country. What is important to understand, what makes actually Ukrainian case unique, because there are many aggressions, in the world, unfortunately. But Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons. After the dissolution of the Soviet Union, we received from, it was in the stockpiles, so we had the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. The third largest. It's British, French, and Chinese combined together. Okay? So, but we gave it up. We gave it up in exchange for the guarantees of our territorial integrity. We received it from the UK, United States, and guess what is the third country? What is the third country? Guess, Russia. So Russia guaranteed our territorial integrity. And in 2014, nuclear power attacked the country which gave up nuclear weapons. Okay, we were the founding members. Ukraine was one of the founding members of the United Nations, so they attacked us, and we had non-block status at that time, right? Because now, if you hear to Russian propaganda, they're saying, "Oh, look, it's the war between Russia and the West, Russia and NATO. There is a danger from NATO to Ukraine."
And what is your from perspective?
I will tell you not perspective, but the facts.
What is the
facts
that you
are
did
that
deliver?
in 2014 we had officially non-block status. Ukrainians didn't want to join NATO. Only 12%.
But this is
Look. Let me. Only
finish,
12% of Ukrainians wanted to join NATO. So basically, Ukrainians were in favor of being neutral, non-block, like you, non-block country.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
But Russia attacked. Yes. But Russia attacked, violated all the promises. So the situation changed. Okay.
So let me underline. So only 12% Ukrainian citizen wants to join NATO.
Wanted in 2014 at that time.
At that time.
But when Russia violated everything, okay, definitely the number of supporters of NATO. Yeah, because we need security umbrella. We were attacked as neutral country. You know, neutrality didn't guarantee us safety. But again, even in 2014, but also in 2022, again, Russia is talking about NATO.
Yeah.
No NATO bases in Ukraine.
Yeah, sure.
No NATO soldiers in Ukraine. No NATO missiles in Ukraine. Nothing.
Yeah, but
and Russia attacked.
Yeah, that's what Putin worry about. I mean, I know it, you know, from the news. That's the reason that is used by Russia to have military operations, you know, because Ukraine, led by Zelensky, want to join NATO. That's the reason is very clear.
But this is, you know, the turn of the logical sequences. Look, again, Ukrainians didn't want to join NATO. We didn't.
Yeah, I know.
We were attacked by Russia.
Yeah, and the reason is that is from their side, yeah.
In 2014, nobody wanted to join NATO.
I'm talking about 2022.
In 2022, yes, because the war started in 2014. We wanted to have security umbrella. Now all Ukrainians want to join NATO. That's right. But you know,
Russia is the main promoter of NATO in Ukraine.
Russia created, you know, actually support for NATO within Ukraine.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
Russia?
Okay. Yes, because of Russian actions. Look.
Oh, that's the reason they don't support. You know, they didn't support. That's what they don't like. I mean, if Ukraine becoming the member of NATO, this is in the border. It's very vulnerable, dangerous to Russia. That's what they said.
But okay, look, again, I am saying it again. They attacked neutral country. There was no threat to Russia. But they did it in 2014, right? In 2022, there were no NATO in Ukraine. No NATO. And NATO is not ready to accept
because they are afraid Ukraine join NATO. That's what my understanding, you know. Because I talk about,
what is your understanding? What is your understanding?
The reason why Russia, you know, make the military operation to Ukraine is because Ukraine wants to join NATO.
But we want to join it not because we love NATO, but because Russia attacked us, and the war lasted for 9 years. So they attacked us anyway. Whether we are NATO members, not NATO, they attacked us in 2014, they attacked us in 2022. Yeah. So if there's no Russian threat, we would not think about NATO. Imagine, you know, this is a very dark scenario. If Indonesia is attacked by a superpower which has nuclear weapons, would you like to have support from other countries to be defended? And look, what is the problem? One more problem. One more problem is that Russia denies the very right of Ukrainians to exist as a separate nation.
Yeah, and if we talked about the roots of this war, this war not, first of all, about land. This war about identity. Yeah,
Identity.
yeah, and it's anti-colonial war, because for Russia, for Russian society, for Russian state officials, Ukrainians were should not existing. We are as small Russians for them, without our culture, without our own language, without our own traditions and history. They, during the last few centuries, they trying to appropriate or trying to destroy it. That's why today is an existential war for us. It's a war about values. And we're not
survival.
And survival, of course. We're not dividing countries into NATO countries, not NATO countries, or to EU countries, or countries of global south, etc., etc. We're dividing countries into two groups. It's the countries that support and share our values, values of democracy, values of freedom, values of dignity, and values of multiculturalism. And the countries that doesn't share such values. That's why, for us, during last year, this war started from Crimea, from the occupation of Crimea. I'm originally a Crimean Tatar. And Crimean Tatar, and we are an indigenous Muslim population of Ukraine. And you know, one more Russian myth that Russia, one of the main friends of Muslims in the world. But first of all, in 2014, the first victim of this war were Crimean Tatars. The first victim of this war was Crimean Tatar activist that was killed in the March of 2014. Yeah, and after that, Russia systematically persecute Crimean Tatars in different ways. Yeah, we have violations of all of the spectrum of human rights in Crimea, and now they trying to do it in another territories of Ukraine. Yeah, we fixed a lot of cases of war crimes. We fixed the acts of genocide, like in Bucha, in Irpin, in Mariupol, in a lot of another places of Ukraine.
Because we are the biggest Muslim country in the world, Islamic country in the world. We like to know, and my audience would like to know, how about the practice of Islam, you know, in Russia and before now, because I know they have Chechnya also, right? It's Muslim. I have a lot of friends coming from this country, and they said that's okay. And I know there is a mosque in so many places like St. Petersburg. Can you make comment? I mean, how Muslim practice, you know, in this country?
Yeah, but look, when I talk about friendship or alliance with Muslims, I looked to the history. Russia persecuted and has a war against Chechen people, against in Afghanistan, in Syria. And now they persecuted Crimean Tatars. Yeah, it's a Muslim population. Before 2014.
What do you mean by persecution?
It means when I talked about colonization, I just give a few spectrums, dimensions of such colonization. First of all, it's destroying identity. What it means? Crimean Tatars has a strong national identity. And during last 9 years, Russia banned our national institutions, self-government institutions, like a Majlis of Crimean Tatar people. It's like a parliament of Crimean Tatars, or they
So Russia banned it.
Banned it.
But you
banned
still
it.
can practice to pray 5 times a day, right?
But look, we have a main mufti of Crimean Tatars, and he is now a persona non grata in Crimea. And Russia just established a fake muftiat with that spreaded pro-Russian narratives. Crimean Tatars celebrated. It's prohibited to celebrate religious or national some days in Crimea. That's why we celebrate our holidays at homes.
Like Idul Fitri, you celebrate, eat?
Yeah, eat. Yeah,
You celebrate that, eh?
Of course.
You're
of
still
course
allowed
we
to do that?
Of course we celebrate, but we not celebrate it in the squares how we do it in before 2014. Or in some parks we celebrate it at home.
At home.
At home. And today, more than 100 of political prisoners in a jail in Russian prisons, and they jailed on the topic of in a religious ground. Russian,
They are Tatar.
yeah,
Crimean,
all of them Crimean Tatar, all of them Muslims. And what I means religious ground. The main criminal articles that they prosecute is articles about terrorism and extremism. And Russia wants to show that Crimean Muslims, terrorists and extremists. For Russians, I am also terrorist, yeah, because
You cannot enter Crimea anymore.
yeah, it's
And you live in Kiev now.
I live in Kiev.
Yes.
My family live in Crimea, and I was in Crimea last time at my home 9 years ago. And
You cannot visit anymore now.
no.
But before 2020? 2022?
Before 2014, because this war was started from Crimea, yeah, and also this war should finish with the occupation of Crimea.
Let me,
Yes.
Let me, because we started with a discussion about the reasons of the war, and you raised the topic of NATO, because Russia is saying
It's very clear
about
here, yeah.
NATO. It's not about NATO. There are historical reasons for this war, because Ukraine it has very, very long historical and cultural tradition. So Kiev state existed since 9th century, and it was one of the largest states in medieval history.
Yeah, I know it.
Kiev is much older than Moscow. It's at least 700 years older than Moscow. Okay, so we had a long.
It is one nation at that time, right? One country?
Look. At that, we are talking about medieval history when you have ethnic groups, no real nations. But it was Kiev Principality, Kiev
Principality,
Kingdom, Kiev Kingdom. And what happened then? History is very, very complicated. Then there was a Mongol invasion. Kiev state was divided into different parts. And at certain point, Moscow emerged, okay, and then incorporated Kiev into the Russian Empire. Now, look, in the Russian Empire, Ukrainian language was banned from official use.
No.
In the Russian Empire. In the Russian Empire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Russian Empire, okay. So, and Russian Empire didn't recognize Ukrainians as a nation. Ukraine was called Little Russia, and Ukrainians were called Little Russians. Okay? So they didn't consider us as a nation, they denied our language, and what Putin is saying right now, he is saying there's no Ukrainians as a separate nation. We are just one united
So he considered Ukraine is part of Russia.
Exactly. So he would like to restore the Russian Empire where Ukrainians do not exist. This is the reason of the war. All this talk about NATO, it's blah, blah, blah. So this is about colonial domination. So for you to understand, and I believe I believe that for Indonesians, it's really easy to understand. We fought for independence. You fought for independence. Ukraine fought for independence. We got it. Now, the former colonial empire is coming back, and they are saying, no, you do not exist. You would be part of our colonial empire. So, do you understand what it means? So I think Indonesians should easily understand that. Imagine that former colonial empire is coming to you by force, is bombing you, is seizing your territories. And then they're saying, you Indonesians, you do not exist. You are part of our colonial empire. That's the reason for the war.
Is it clearly stated by Putin?
Pardon me?
Is it clearly stated to
Clear?
to take Ukrainian becoming the Russian
No,
territory?
Look, there are
Is
many.
there a clear statement from him?
Yes,
Statement.
you can,
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
read a lot. Look, he wrote so-called historical texts. It's
Yeah.
easy to find.
Before
it's easy to
full
find.
scale
It's
invasion,
easy
yeah.
to find on the web. Russians even translated it into English. So this is documented by Russians. So Putin is stating there are no Ukrainians as a separate nation. There is one nation.
When did he say that? I
When?
didn't follow. Yeah.
First of all, he said it since
Before invasion?
Look,
Yeah.
he's saying it continuously since 2014, and he wrote huge article in 2021. It's on the Kremlin Rus site, so you can easily check that. He's repeating it all the time. Google it. Ukrainians and Russians are one nation. Putin. You'll find it. Your viewers easily find it. Okay? So, moreover, I would say that now, when this war started, Russian invasion, Russia has state information channels. They do not have independent information channels, okay? So, state information channels, I mean RIA Novosti,
RIA Novosti.
RIA News, Russian Information
Or
Agency
Interfax.
News. They stated the aim to de-Ukrainianize Ukraine. This is a quote. De-Ukrainianize Ukraine. So, what Russians are doing in Ukraine, all these genocides, they have their ideological background.
Okay.
For that.
Talking about the issue of genocide, because they said that there are genocide in Ukraine,
Yeah.
Who said?
Russia. That's
Genocide of whom? Russians?
I mean, maybe so many Russian in Russian blood, heredity, in
Look. First of all, Russians are saying there's no war in Ukraine. Officially, it's prohibited. If you are in Russia
yeah.
and you say that there is a war in Ukraine, what will happen to you? What will happen to you? You will be imprisoned. So you cannot say that. The official Russian term, it's special military operation.
Yes, that's what he said. He said a war.
But this is a
what I'm
war. It's prohibited to say there is a war in Russia. Okay? Several days before invasion, Lavrov, the foreign minister, he was asked by journalists, are you going to attack Ukraine? And he said, no. We are not going to attack Ukraine. And then what happened? The whole Ukraine was bombarded. Our cities were bombarded. We were in the shelters. So they are liars. Russian propaganda actually, I know what was the propaganda in the Soviet Union because I lived. No freedom, no alternative channels of information. There is only one information, official information. In Russia, all TV is under one control.
Control, yeah.
Opposition TV channel closed, opposition websites closed. So, there's just one voice which is telling you constant lies. And look, we Ukrainians, we have a lot of relatives in Russia, okay?
Sure.
I have a cousin who's living in Russia. And when Ukraine was invaded, I called him, to my cousin, and I said, Sasha, we are bombarded. over the phone, we are bombarded. And he said, who bombarded you? I said, Russian army. He said, no, it can't be. I will call your mother. I don't believe you. I will call your mother. So he called my mother, and there were explosions near her house because she lives not far from the railway station. And my mother told him, we are bombarded. And he didn't believe
Your
us.
mother is in Ukraine?
Yes, in
Yeah,
Kiev.
okay.
My
In
family
Kiev.
is there. So, but my cousin didn't believe us. Look, so they are brainwashed.
Totally.
You know, that's the problem. And you asked about Russians in Ukraine.
Yeah. Can I add that, you know, around the world we have this tradition of war, when one army fight against another army. But Russian army and Russian society fight against Ukrainian civilians. Today we have a direct shooters of hospitals, of schools, of child garden, of museums, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, today a lot of civil infrastructure destroyed by Russia, and it's important to understand why they want to kill of us. Yeah, all of us.
I don't know actually if it's possible to.
We will edit it.
You will do that because there are clear pictures of what had been done. This is Kharkiv, the second largest
city.
The second largest city in Ukraine.
It's very close to. Is it in the border?
Yes, it's on the border with Russia.
Yeah. Okay.
And most people there are Russian speakers. Russians bombarded Russian speakers.
Professor, how about the issue Ukrainian government doesn't allow to use Russian language? That's weird.
I will tell you, but let me finish with this.
Okay.
This is Mariupol.
It's not Mariupol. It's a museum of Ukrainian philosopher.
Ukrainian philosopher. And this is Crimea. So this was the center of their state, Crimean Tatar, the palace.
Yeah, can I
Is it the
explain?
minaret?
Huh?
Minaret?
Yeah,
Is it
it's
mosque?
minaret. It's a mosque. It's a main. It's a
This is
hand
the place
palace.
where you born, right?
Yeah. It's a place where from my root, I was born, and I will talk about later. It's a main cultural object of Crimean Tatars, and now it's destroyed under the guise of restoration. And when we talk about identity and destroying identity, they destroy all of that does not fit into the Russian ideology, and they destroy such cultural objects also. And time to time, people ask me why Crimean Tatars, as Muslims, not support Russia and not just accept it as a temporary occupation of Crimea. I have very easy answer. Because we know what we have this experience how to be with Russia. In Middle East, from the 15th century, Crimean Tatars, we have our own state, independent state that named Crimean Khanate. And in 18th century, one of the oldest universities in Central Asia, or Central Europe and Eastern Europe were in Crimea. It was Zanjirli Medrese, that some educational institution was.
It's very old history. Right?
Yeah, but in 18th century, Catherine II invaded to Crimea, annexed Crimea, and a lot of Crimean Tatars, just under the repressions, left Crimea to Ottoman Empire. In 20th century, all of Crimean Tatar people in 1944 were deported from Crimea to Central Asia, to Siberia, and half of my population died. And I was born in Uzbekistan, for example.
Uzbek?
Yeah, because my grandparents were deported to Uzbekistan.
Tashkent?
Chirchik. Yeah, it's near Tashkent. And now we face the same tragic page of our history.
So Can you imagine the whole nation is deported? Muslim nation is deported. No Crimean Tatar in Crimea. No.
Yeah.
All were resettled. And they were able to come back all actually on the eve of Ukrainian independence. Okay, now давайте поговорим на русском языке. Do you know what I have said?
Yeah. No, which one? The previous one is okay, yeah?
No. Давайте поговорим на русском языке.
No.
Do you understand? I'm saying let's talk in Russian language. I'm saying it in Russian.
Yeah,
I'm saying it in Russian.
Sure. Because you are a professor.
No, not because of that.
You use bilingual before in Ukraine.
Yes, we are bilingual. Look, again, don't believe any word of the Russian propaganda. There's no war in Ukraine. What else? They said we will not attack Ukraine. You see, it's huge lie.
We attack only NATO alliance in Ukraine.
Okay, what Mr. Lavrov is saying? Mr. Lavrov is saying that if you speak Russian, you will be beaten in Kiev. This is simply crazy statement, you know. Half of Kievites are speaking Russian language. We speak Russian language. I speak Russian language to my mom. So let me explain the situation. As I have said, we were part of the Russian Empire. There was huge Russification of Ukrainians. Okay? Ukrainian language was banned from public use. So this was a Russification policy which started in the Russian Empire, which was continued covertly in the Soviet Union. Okay? So that's why a lot of Ukrainians, they speak Russian language by default. Okay? So Ukrainians are bilingual, basically, now. Ukrainian and Russian language. And we talk to each other in both languages.
Both language, okay.
In both languages, and we do not differentiate, actually. For example, No. I mean, we don't differentiate who are you.
Yeah.
So you may say Russian language to me. We may communicate. I am saying I'm speaking in Russian language. You are speaking in Ukrainian language. Okay. So, but yeah, I'm speaking in Russian language. I could be ethnic Ukrainian. You are speaking in Ukrainian language. You could be ethnic Russian. We do not ask who are you. Are you Russian? Are you Ukrainian? No.
No issue.
So no, we live, commonly. We communicate in both languages with no problem. So again, this is a huge Russian lie.
Okay, Prof. Okay, Alim, brother Alim. So. You have come to Jakarta, right?
Yeah.
You are sent by your government to come here, right?
Not by government.
No.
So
we are
who sent you?
We are civil society delegation. Okay. I'm a founder of the biggest Crimean NGO, Crimea SOS.
Okay. So this is the channel. Maybe you can send. What do you want to deliver to Indonesian people? I mean, starting from you, Alim.
Yeah, in the beginning of our talk
discussion.
You ask the reasons. One of the reasons is to ask to our brothers and sisters in Indonesia, to support Ukrainian Muslims, to publicly support Ukrainian Muslims, because it's a lot of Muslims in Ukraine that some of us in Ukrainian army, some of us volunteering, some of us doing some informational campaigns, and some of us in jail now. And for us, very important to have this supporting. For us, very important to strengthen connections between civil society, between religious, cultural organizations of Ukraine and Indonesia, and because it's existential war for Muslims also in Ukraine. And today we haven't any another choice only to fight, because it's fighting for our future. It's fighting between a past that Russia wants to grab us, and it's fighting
for the future.
Only for the future.
And from you, you continue?
And when we talked about Crimean Tatars, it's important to understand that politically, we are political nation, yeah, and Crimean Tatars also political, as a part of Ukraine political nations, but we have our own identity. We have a lot of, for example, every year in Ukraine, it's we open a new mosques, we open new cultural centers. Yeah, we trying to preserve our identity, and we ask to help to preserve our identity for our brothers and sisters. I give only one more example about Crimean history. In 1917, Crimean Tatars established Crimean National Republic in Crimea, and this republic was the first Muslim democratic republic in the world, because the constitution of the state proclaimed that men and women have equal rights to elect and to be elected. Yeah, and it's important to understand why today our movement as a but after that all of the leaders of this republic were killed and tortured by communists and Soviet Union. And today, as a Soviet Union, we have our national movement, and this movement based on non-violent movement. That's why when Russia says that Crimean Tatar terrorists, it's a kingdom of crooked mirrors, you know. That's why we just want to share our stories. We just want to share this truth, what they do in different parts of. They bombed mosques, for example, in Mariupol. They just bombed this. They bombed a lot of cultural and spiritual centers of Ukraine.
Yeah. So about Indonesia, look, I would like to add,
what is your expectation?
Yeah, okay. but first of all, we would like, we find a lot of commonalities between us, right? Love for freedom. And also, you have many ethnic groups in your country, right? But you have Indonesian nation. So we have different cultures. Alim speaks 3 languages, Ukrainian, Russian, and Crimean Tatar language. I speak Russian and Ukrainian language, but we all are part of Ukrainian political nation. So this is very important to understand, which includes also ethnic Russians who are living in Ukraine. So there are no problem with ethnic Russians who are living in Ukraine and who consider Ukraine as their motherland. A lot of them are fighting in Ukrainian army against Putin, because Ukraine is a motherland for them now. So it's very important that you in Indonesia, you understand it. And look, you may not believe some of our stories that we are telling you, because sometimes it's really, hard to imagine, Russian slogans to de-Ukrainianize Ukraine. You do not believe me, right? You don't believe me. But they are saying
because it's the media taking the role in this thing,
So if you don't believe Ukrainian media, if you don't believe Western media, which shows all these devastations and killings in Ukraine, watch Al Jazeera, watch TRT. They show what's going on in Ukraine with killings, sufferings, bombardments. You consider it's neutral for you, right? So you can see it. And look, in this situation, definitely, because we are under attack, we ask for support in any form. For example, as Alim said, in the United Nations, 143 countries voted for territorial integrity of Ukraine, Indonesia included. Okay, so we are very, very thankful for that, right? But we would ask international, only 5 countries sided with Russia. Only 5 countries sided with Russia. Okay? So we appreciate this support. We need this diplomatic support at all the levels in international organizations. So our only aim is to restore the territorial integrity of Ukraine. So Russian soldiers go away, and the war would be stopped.
Okay.
For us, you know, the war is about freedom, territorial integrity, and our values and survival as a nation. But there are some other aspects where Indonesia, government, non-government actors may help us. And Alim was talking about human rights violations, about suffering of Crimean Tatars, of Muslims. But look, there's also some issues like, as I have mentioned, food crisis, you know. Food crisis in the world was aggravated by the Russian aggression, because Ukraine is one of the main providers of grain.
Grain and wheat,
So that's why it's very important. It's very important to secure the so-called grain corridors from Ukraine, because Ukrainian ports were blocked and bombarded by Russians. Okay, we are talking about nuclear safety, right? We are talking about nuclear non-proliferation. So it's not possible that nuclear countries are attacking other non-nuclear countries. So we are asking, you know, so about this, raise your voice in support. It's very important. Every word counts, because we are bleeding.
Indonesia, one of the powerful countries in the world.
I mean,
and also Indonesia, most powerful countries among the Muslim countries and Muslim states. And your voice can be leading voice about the situation in Ukraine, about the war, and about the freedom of Muslims.
And look, there is government position, okay? Government position. But as I have said, there are many other players. There is civil society, there are common people who could also, who could send the word of truth about what's going on in Ukraine.
And Professor and Brother Alim, you know that we have sent our president. Our president, I mean, has come to Kiev, to Moscow, to send a message, stop the war, because the war has made, I mean, all part of the world now suffer. Energy, food, you know, crisis, everything. We have to stop the war. That's the message. You know, during our conversation or table with Professor Hikmahanto Juwana, that's our standing. We really want to stop the war, not only you. In your perspective, is there any chance that the war can be stopped, you know, between Ukraine and Russia?
It could be stopped if international community would be strong enough to persuade Putin to leave Ukraine. Because we Ukrainians, we are continuing our fighting. It's very tough, it's very difficult, a lot of sufferings, but also polls show that Ukrainians, 92% of Ukrainians are optimistic, they believe in victory. And we are not ready to make peace, sacrificing our territory. But what Putin is saying, actually, so he occupied Ukraine, and he said, part of Ukraine. And he is saying, this is ours. I'm not going to talk about it. Okay? So how could negotiations be conducted if aggressor occupying huge part of Ukrainian territory, threatening other parts of Ukraine, bombarding the whole of Ukraine? We are under bombardment everywhere. There's no safe place in Ukraine. Can we believe him that he wants talks? No. So that's why the only way to persuade him to withdraw from Ukraine is a strong condemnation and support of Ukraine. And when Russian soldiers would leave Ukraine, the war would be stopped.
You know, we of course want to stop that war will stop, because the main value of Ukraine, it's our people. And today, a lot of the best people of my country died during this war. Few days ago, 20 years old Crimean Tatar died on the front line because of Russia invasion. Yeah, and for us, when we say about stop the war, it means that last Russian soldier should leave all of territory of Ukraine, including Crimea, and Russian society should take the responsibility about this war. Yeah. One more I want to stress about it, that a lot of Muslims in this war, one of the main religious Muslim leader, Mufti, he also served in Ukraine army as a paramedic. Yeah, he gives first medical aid for the people, and it means that for today, it's not the war only for Ukrainians, for Ukraine, for Crimean Tatars. It's the challenge for all of civilized world, because they're trying to change the international law and international rules.
Let me also say something about, again, coming back to the fate of Muslims, including in Russia. Okay, so we remember how Russia started the war in Afghanistan, how Russia conducted 2 Chechen wars. But look, what is the situation right now? A lot of Muslims in Russia, they are living in the underdeveloped regions. Okay? So, Russians do not want to mobilize people from Moscow or St. Petersburg to Russian army and to send to Ukraine to die. What they are doing, instead, they are mobilizing population from the Muslim regions in the North Caucasus and some other parts which are underdeveloped. Okay? And they are sending them to Ukraine to kill Ukrainians and to kill Muslims. Okay? Do you understand what I mean? Okay, so basically they are creating, you know, the situation when Muslims are killing Muslims. They are killing Ukrainians as well, but also Muslims. You know, so again,
in such situation, one more new example, in September 2022, Russia provided forced mobilization of the people in temporarily occupied territories. And according to international law, it's a war crime, yeah, when you mobilize the people from occupied territories. And first of all, 85% that they're trying to mobilize, it's Crimean Tatars. But the number of Crimean Tatars in Crimea now, it's 13% among the whole population. And before, just imagine, before first annexation, before 18th century, 95% of whole population of Crimea were Crimean Tatars. When I said about colonization, it's also about settlement colonization. More than 700,000 of new citizens come from Russia to Crimea, and more than 50,000 Crimean Tatars left Crimea during this invasion. And it means that the replacement population and the ethnic and in ethnic and religious ground also.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I get your message. Hopefully that my viewers, I mean, get another perspective, because this is very sad to you. Majority, I can say to you, Indonesian now in the Russian side. Yeah,
not all,
it can be predicted. You know, it can be predicted because we are Muslim, and you are supported by America. You know, American. Yeah, maybe like one of the what professor in the table said about that. But you know, the moral of the story, we have to talk. You know, we have to talk. You know, I mean, how to stop the war. I don't know. I mean, maybe...
well, I understand. Frankly speaking, because we have very frank discussion, when you say this is predictable, that many Indonesians are supporting Russia. For me, I don't understand it.
Yeah, because because you are supported by American. This is
we were attacked.
This is their sentiment.
We were attacked.
On that fact, it's that fact. But this is, I mean, this is a sentiment, you know? This is the sentiment. That is the fact that we are, I think, with this dialogue, now Indonesian can see, you know,
Yeah.
can listen to the other
Now is the
perspective.
time to open each other for
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
each
We have to
other,
open
yeah.
us,
Yeah.
sit together in one table,
And to
you
talk,
know,
to communicate,
to talk, to communicate. You know, see
to
what-
share
yeah.
our values and to share our cultures also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, so I think we are open. We are very, you know, we want to hear tough questions, and we are ready to answer it because we
yeah.
believe that truth is on
So
our
many
side.
issues, you know. Like, do you agree with? Do you support Zelensky?
It's not easy question. Look, because we are democracy. So before the war,
Yeah.
I was one of the critics of Zelensky. I was criticizing
Yeah.
him, right? Because we are democracy. But now he is as commander-in-chief, as Ukrainian president. He's doing a lot of right things. He is leading the country. So I support him.
But what happened to the conflict, the argument with Vitaly Klitschko as the mayor of Kiev? That's what
Which
we
one?
had.
What happened?
They argue, you know, I mean, not in the same boat anymore. That's
No, look, we are democracy. So we are democracy,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we are
I think-
discussing,
no.
debating.
What I want to deliver
Yeah.
is, I mean, Zelensky got so many critics too, right?
When?
No, that's what I heard. The mayor of Kiev, former boxer, right?
Now?
Klitschko.
Yeah, Klitschko.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
he argued a lot, you know, with.
No, look,
Don't support something like that.
again. Let
Different
me
opinion.
explain. Let me explain to you that Ukrainians now are united more than ever. Okay, because we have war, so we need to unite our efforts. So
Sure.
basically, we agreed, both the government, the opposition, the civil society. We are not criticizing Zelensky as commander-in-chief, as the leader of the country. We are not criticizing him, right, during the war. But if there are some wrongdoings in the economy, for example,
How about the issue that Zelensky?
we continue to criticize, and we have
Yeah,
debate.
you challenge
what
me
is
to
done
criticize,
right,
right? Yeah.
but what is done right, what is done wrong.
Yeah.
So we continue to debate it.
Yeah, yeah. That's the issue here, you know, because I got so many opinions from Indonesian, right? But he was a comedian, nothing's wrong with that. You know, he's Jewish, you know, he's American.
Is it bad to be Jewish?
I don't know. I mean,
No, I mean,
I know. Me too. Me neither. But this is the issue that in the people, you know.
Look again.
No,
Because
this is not my opinion.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, this is not opinion
Okay.
because we are Muslim country. Remember, only that.
You know, I just give one example.
Yeah.
When we have the large celebration of Eid, for example, yeah.
Yes.
Zelensky has a public statement and said a lot of words toward Muslims, Ukrainian Muslims, and I hope that in the near future the Muslim holidays will be the national holidays in Ukraine and
yeah.
Zelensky promised it, and
Look.
it's changing, and Ukraine it's really multicultural country. We have a lot of different kinds of Muslims, Christians, etc., 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 and it's about democracy. And when we talk about Zelensky and Klitschko, yeah, it can be some political
Argument,
issues, but when we talk about war and when we talk about values, all of us are really united, and all of us want one thing: to finish this war. And to finish this war as our victory.
Okay, our religion, what our religions are teaching us, judge people by what? By their deeds, right? Not by the fact, are you Muslim, non-Muslim, Christian, not Christian, Jew, Arab, Indonesian, Ukrainian, by their
But this is
deeds.
the issue that
By
is
their
played,
deeds.
you know.
So let me explain about Zelensky. Yes, when he was elected in 2019, he was naive, not experienced. He was very populist.
Artist, comedian. Yeah, nothing's
So
wrong with that.
what?
Yeah, so what? Yeah, nothing's wrong.
So yeah, he wasn't experienced, but this was democracy. Ukrainian people voted for him. I didn't vote for him. Ukrainian people voted. So this is democracy.
Yeah.
Now, when he was elected, he tried to negotiate with Putin. Previous president also tried to. Every Ukrainian president tries to negotiate with Russia, and everybody fails because For Russia, it's important not to find a compromise, but to crush Ukrainian state. And at certain point, Zelensky understood it. It was even before the invasion, so he understood it. He was starting to change, to becoming more professional, to understand more and to understand more about real Russian policy. And when invasion happened, he behaved bravely. You remember what happened to Afghan President Ghani, okay? He left the country. Zelensky was suggested to leave.
But
And he declined. And this was right decision. So I think as a leader of the fighting country, you know, he is doing good. So he relies, first of all, on Ukrainian people. He relies on Ukrainian people. And Ukrainian people are ready to fight. I will give you my own personal story, if I may, because it could be interesting for your audience. So I live in Kiev at the north. So, and Russians tried to invade Kiev. So the front was 10 kilometers from my house. And first days, it was very, very nervous situation. Okay? So I'm not drafted for the army because I'm old for the army. But I decided to take arms voluntarily. So I went to military registration point to get arms. What I have seen there? I've seen there a huge line of people who voluntarily were standing to get arms to defend the country. Okay. They were old, they were young, they were speaking Russian language, they were speaking Ukrainian language. So there were so many people that not everybody received the gun. But this is reality. So when I saw it, you know, I became optimistic. That it was clear for me that we will withstand this aggression, and Russians were defeated nearby Kiev, then Russians were defeated nearby Kharkiv, Kherson is liberated, but still it's very difficult, tough and bloody. And that's why we are asking for support. We are not asking anybody, we are not asking NATO, send us troops. We are not asking you, send us troops. We are fighting alone.
Just stop the war.
But give us weapons, support us economically, support us diplomatically, raise your voice to defend the human rights in Ukraine. I'm sorry for my emotions, but here I'm speaking, you know, I can speak as a professor.
I really appreciate that.
And be very serious, analyzing from different sides and angles. But I can speak also emotionally as a Ukrainian. My two daughters are in Kiev, my mother are in Kiev. They are under bombardments, but we are there. We believe in our victory.
Okay. Any comment about the news, you know, when we organized the G20 conference here? Yes. And Zelensky said there is a missile launched from Russia to Poland, but in fact, it was after that, you know, said that it is from Ukraine, and it is chaos at the time, you know.
You mean, look? So what's the question?
Because all the leader in Bali, you know, wow, I mean, there is a launch of the missile, you know, from it said from Russia, but after that, NATO, I will not take it, and Joe Biden said, no, it is not from Russia, it is from Ukraine. Any comment about that?
Yes, sure. Okay. So
I think it's very careless, you know.
Careless?
Careless statement from Zelensky.
No, look, we are bombarded. Okay, we have a lot of...
No, it's not that. It's not that. There is a missile to Poland.
No. Let me explain to you. Let me explain to you. The Russians are sending missiles all over Ukraine. They bombard these missiles. They are attacking all Ukraine, including cities on the border with Polish, on the Polish border. Okay, so and Ukrainians' air defense missile was used, and then there was a mistake. But it was used. Why? Because of what? Because of Russia attacking by missiles all the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So, and it was understandable. It was understandable by Poles. They understand it, you know, that this is the reason is because Russia is bombarding the whole Ukraine. That's why we spend a lot of time in shelters, air alarm, blackout, That's how we live.
I
in Ukraine.
just give one more example. I live in the southern part of Kyiv,
Yeah.
and 1 month ago, from the two sides of my house,
Yeah.
Russian missiles just bombed from the one side supermarket and to the another side Kyiv University campus. And you know, for us it's a new reality. Every month we have a new skills how to live in this war, how to live among this a huge number of negative news.
Yeah.
How to also to act, how to volunteer. Yeah, and yeah, we are fighting, and we need this support to finish the war.
Yes.
So I will tell you how we continue teaching at the university.
As
So
a professor.
We have online it now. My students are all around
Orlando,
Ukraine
yes.
and the world
Yeah.
right now.
Your
Some of them stay in Kiev. Some of them stay in other cities of Ukraine. There are some of them even on the occupied
Outside, yeah.
territories. Occupied territories. So we have it online, but the problem is that there are blackouts. Okay?
Okay.
So we are trying to adapt because there is there are regular blackouts. So we are checking, you know, what hour we are supposed to have energy.
Okay.
So I schedule the classes for that time, but then there could be Russian strike,
Okay.
and everything is cancelled. Everybody is to go to shelter. That's how we live.
Yeah. Professor, I strongly believe that no good things, you know, coming from the war. We hate war, actually, no? We need peace.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it's not only Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia or America, NATO, you know, it's affect all over the world, you know, including Indonesia, you know, I mean, so we really want the war stop, you know. I mean, I give you the chance to deliver the message. Hope that Indonesian people watching my program now, they know, you know, from what you told me. Yeah, that's fresh from Kiev. Your experience, you know, your dramatic story, your I mean, and also from you. I mean, so that's what we want to deliver from this video. Anything you want to say to my viewers? Maybe closing statement, Alim?
I just want to ask Indonesian people, Indonesian society that support Ukraine, learn more about Ukraine culture, Ukraine history, Ukraine identity, and support Ukrainian Muslims, because it's our common war, and we will win this war together.
And you, Professor?
Let's urge Russia to stop bombarding Ukraine. Let's urge Russian soldiers to leave Ukraine. And let's unite our efforts for peace and spread the word of truth. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Amin.
Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih banyak. Okay. Hope that peace come in a very near time, closing time. Yeah, because we need it.
Yeah.
It's very tiring, you know. We are tired. Okay. I mean, good luck with your missions. Yeah. And you too, Alim. Yeah, send my regard to all Ukrainian people.
Yeah, I hope
Muslim.
that we invite you to Crimea after the
I put
occupation.
on my, Professor, I put in my bucket list, I'm a traveler. I should come to Kiev because people told me this is one of the most beautiful city in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know now.
Definitely.
Definitely. Thanks for
We invite you.
being my guest. Hopefully that what we talk, it's very beneficial to many people of Indonesia. Ya, itulah wawancara saya, ngobrol tepatnya dengan Profesor Olexiy. Is it?
Yeah.
And Brother Alim. Jadi semoga kita mendapatkan perspektif baru Tidak kenal maka tidak sayang So I mean yang penting kita berharap perang berhenti, we have to stop the war. Ya, jadi kita udah capek dengan perang. Semoga kita ke depan bisa hidup lebih damai, lebih bersahabat. We did a lot of things from Ukraine and also from Russia, ya, from all over the world. Ya, terima kasih dan kita jumpa dengan tamu saya selanjutnya. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much.
How do you say in Ukraine? Terima kasih.
Дякую.
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 Дякую. Oke, thank you. Terima kasih sudah menonton Helmy Yahya Bicara. Jangan lupa untuk like, komen, share, dan subscribe.